Hey everyone, and welcome to another podcast with myself, Scott Volker, and Joe Marshall, of course, is on the line. Joe, how's it going?
I'm doing okay over here. It's nice and warm. I don't know what your weather's like.
You had to be a smart guy, didn't you? Well, it's not that nice here. It's like 19 degrees, I think. The wind chill's like 12. And we just had snow the other day, and we're going to get some more snow, I think, tomorrow. So, yeah, thanks for rubbing that in.
Well, I couldn't be a Floridian if I didn't.
Exactly. All right, so let's get started here. We do have some questions that came in. We actually received a lot of questions, and I'm going to go ahead and just answer myself personally. I'm going to answer one big one that came in this week, and it's been coming in for the past 2 years that I've been online. And Joe, I'm going to give you a question that came in that I think you're going to help people out with. Again, it's related to lighting and strobes and flashes and stuff. But the first question I'm going to talk about is, and it's a big one that keeps coming in all the time, is how do I get clients coming in my studio, and how do I get them to pay my prices? And this is something that I hear all the time. And let me just read the email, or I'll summarize it. But it just says, Scott, my biggest problem is getting people in the door that want to spend money. I'd like to know how to deal with growing my business in a county with a 13% unemployment rate and climbing. There's been no job recovery in my county, and it's the highest unemployment rate in my state, Washington. Businesses are closing down left and right, and it looks like a ghost town here. I get people to trickle in, but they just don't seem to want to spend much, usually only around $100. I believe in my photography, and I want to make my business a success, but I'm not sure that that's possible here. That's my challenge. So, Joe, again, I just did a podcast, or not a podcast, a blog post the other day, probably about 2 weeks ago now. It was the photographer's death trap, the Walmart, the Walmart thing that we all face here, where we all try to compete with Walmart or the Sears, and you can't do that. Okay, that's number one. Number two, he said basically that he can get about $100 per client that comes in there. So in my head, I'm doing the quick math here. I'm like 10 people a week, $100, that's $1,000. Well, then you might hear people say, well, I can't get 10 people. Well, that's what you got to focus on then. So we got to get 10 people in the door, and how are we going to do this? So the first thing, and we went over this, Joe, remember when we went over this in the webinar about the contacting JVs and the yellow pages?
Exactly.
So it's simple stuff like that. And if you didn't watch that webinar, you still can watch it. It's on the blog. It's uploaded on YouTube. It was a great webinar that we did. But basically, to create more leads, and a real simple way to do this is to go into your yellow pages. All right, find other businesses that you can complement, and you guys can complement each other, and then pick up the phone and call them. All right, try to do something like that where you can align yourselves with someone to help you out. Because if you're just out there trying to do it yourself, it's going to be a lot harder. Try to get someone that already has maybe some traffic, and then you can tap into that. Here's something that I think is a very valid point, and people don't usually think of this type of stuff. But how many iPads do you think were sold around Christmas time? I mean, what do you think, Joe?
Yeah, it's got to be up there. Yep.
There's a lot, right? And
I didn't get one.
Yeah, well, I didn't get one yet either. I'm going to. But I'm telling you right now that there's people right now in his town that probably got iPads, okay, that probably say, well, I can't go to your studio because I can't afford it. All right? So what that tells me is basically priorities are not there, and you didn't give them the reason to come to you, and you didn't turn up the level of desire for your product. Now, the iPad has a lot of desire going there, right? People are all hyped up about it. They want it, right? So they're going to get it some way, somehow. So my point is this is obviously, it's a different story. An iPad is like a gadget, and your services aren't a gadget, but you do have a product, okay, that is going to give people a memory that they're going to be able to see over and over again for generations. So you need to apply that stuff into your marketing. All right. So I'm going to try to wrap this up, Joe, because we can't talk this whole podcast about this. But you got to keep trying. That's number one. Okay. And you got to keep adding more chances for people to find you. And the last thing is you have to keep at it. You have to keep trying. all right? And I'll hound that over and over again. If you went out there and you contacted 2 JVs and you said, and they both said no, you got to ask one more. And you got to keep going. It's an ongoing thing. And if you're not ready to do that, then you might as well stop right now and try to, either go work for someone else or pick up another, career that you can do that will make you happy. Because in any business, you have to go out there and get it, but you also have to go out there and make people have a desire for your services. And the way to do that is to tap into emotions. And when you tap into emotions, then you're going to get people to buy. So
Yeah.
that's
Well, you got to get people. Exactly. You got to get people to change their priorities. I'm sure that they said new car sales were the highest since '07. So that means people have had priorities. They're tired of their old car and they finally spend it. You've got to get them to want your pictures. And weddings, births, all those things are happy moments that people need a picture for. And you've got to be out there pre-planning. Go to clothing stores. Go to anybody that can be a joint venture with you, and you've got to set up displays, and you've got to create that desire. They have to see that and say, yes, it's time I get a new picture of this or that, births, everything.
Yeah, no, and it's really, it's as simple as that. I wish I could come up with, this really high tech, technique, but I mean, the big picture here is you have to go out and focus on getting those clients, all right? And you say, well, they're not in here and the unemployment rate's going up, this and that, but I guarantee those people that they're on unemployment, they're still buying stuff, all right? And, I'm not saying that you have to go out and take people's last dollar, but if they're going to go out there and spend it on other things that don't really, help them as far as, buying stuff that is useless.
Well, it's a family heirloom. That's how you have to think.
This is a fairly, a family heirloom that's going to be passed down for generations, and you need to know that, and you need to think about that, and you need to also convey that to them. Okay, you have to. In marketing, it's a lot about making people aware of what they already know, but they don't think about it. It's psychology in a sense. All right, so that's what I'm going to leave on that one there. For going out and getting more clients, I mean, we've went over it before. There's a lot of different ways, and we'll keep going over new ways and other ways. I mean, we went over that in the webinar about Google Places. If you get Google Places out there, you get your business registered in there, you're going to start coming up in search results in Google. And that's a big one right there because local people are looking online now versus going to the yellow pages, so you want to be there. All right, so just keep at it, keep trying, and keep adding new JVs that you can work with, because then it's going to have a revolving door. All right, then you can just keep helping each other. So Joe, let's get on to your question. All right, I'm going to read this. It came in from Zen, and basically he said, I'm currently shopping for a new lighting kit, and I thought that continuous light might be a good option for posing babies and children. I currently have an SB600 and an SB900 for flashes. Is continuous light somewhat the same as those flashes I already have, that I already have, as to how to position them? So let's stop right there for a minute. So Joe, why don't you answer that?
All right. This question comes up a lot, and I don't know. It might be an intimidation. They're afraid of more lights than their regular flash, because everybody knows a camera has a flash on it, and that doesn't scare anybody. But the idea of getting umbrellas. Now, do I put a continuous light in it or a flash? And some people just like to be able to see the light that's coming off and say, okay, I can shoot under that light. I see it. The flash, it's a guess. I mean, you have to fire the flash, and then you check your back of your screen. So I think if people trace it with that intimidation factor, the problem is you really can't mix the two, because the continuous light is either hot, and you wouldn't want to do it with babies and children. And the flash goes off so instantaneous that the babies don't notice it, where they might notice a hot light on all the time, and that's probably why their eyes are shut. So it's try to get. I've never even seen animals, when I shoot animals with flash, versus things like, I've never seen them jump. So I think it passes through the brain so fast that nobody notices it. And you can't mix these hot lights or continuous lights. The very low shutter speed And if you put them too far away, they're dimmer still. And if you put them up real close, you might be able to get a little bit of light, but you have to lower your shutter speed for your flash. So if you've got an f8 and you like to use 125 or 250, now you have to lower that shutter speed to correspond with the continuous light that you just wanted to mix with it. So then you might have the baby twitch or move or the kid not sit still. And so you want to have your shutter speeds up to 60 and 125, and it's really hard to do with these low wattage continuous light bulbs. And the higher wattage are too hot.
Yeah, and so I mean, basically, in a short answer for that, basically, he was asking, are they the same? And no, they're not the same. I mean, continuous is on all the time, and a flash only goes off when you tell it to. And like you were saying, if you're going to use continuous lights, you're going to have to open up your shutter speed, or you're going to have to pump up your ISO, and then your picture's going to get grainier. And so, and we didn't even talk about that, but your white balance is going to be different, so that all has to be calibrated. So, there's more that goes into continuous, I feel. Again, this is our opinion, but that, and just from experience, that using continuous is a little bit more challenging, and I don't think you're going to have as consistent of results from using them. So, he said, can I use both kinds of lights in a session? I mean, so what do you say to that, Joe?
Well, that was mixing. If you want to use continuous, Westcott has a brand called Spider Light, and they have like 900 watts. They've got 6 or 7 bulbs inside one softbox, and they're like $80 a piece. They're not the Home Depot that you get for 6. So you've got to spend 80. You've got to buy 5 or 6 in there. Then you get the wattage up, and they're starting to get popular, but you've got to have 2.8 lenses, something that can open up wide, and you've got to have a camera that doesn't get noisy after 400 ISO. So those are the ways if you really want to be able to see what you're shooting. Instead of just forget about that, just photograph it with a flash, check your LCD screen, and you're there. There's nothing to worry about. As I always said, make lighting your friend. And I mean flash lighting. Lighting of all kind a camera can see, but where do you want to be? You want to spend $900. You've already spent almost $400 on the 900 flash, and the 600 is around $250 to $300. So you've already spent what you could have bought a basic Alien B monohead studio setup.
Yeah, and you know what, though? I mean, the other thing we can point out here before we end this podcast is basically if you already have the SB600 and the SB900, okay, you could get small soft boxes for them, and you can use them as secondary lights now, for your main light. So now if you do get one main strobe, you can potentially have, 2 other lights that are acting as either a fill or a background light or a hair light. So you have you have a lot of tools at your disposal, without having to go out and buy a whole entire kit. So I would say go out and get the strobe, the Alien B preferably, and get a large either octobox or a soft lighter, or just a soft box, and then from there try to utilize the SB600 and the SB900, or just one of them if you want, you can use your reflector as well, so I don't think you really have to go out there and buy an entire kit. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
Well, it says he's shopping for one, so I'd say no, don't get one that's a continuous. You've already got 2 lights. Buy another flash and an umbrella, and Scott says a reflector. You've got a 4-light setup, or at least 3. You've got the makings of a full studio downtown. So you don't need to add anything else that would slow you down.
Yeah, no. So that's going to pretty much wrap this up. Joe, is there anything else you wanted to add before we end the podcast for this session?
No, just keep some questions coming into us, and we're going to keep on doing these podcasts. I think they find favor with people out there.
Yeah, we definitely do. And, I just sent out an email the other day, and I got bombarded with questions. So we already have a stockpile of other questions that came in that we're going to be trying to get to. So if you do submit a question and we don't get to it right away, just hang loose. But the other thing is I do try to respond to the questions, even if it's brief, through an email, just to let you know that I got it. Obviously, if there's a few that are repetitive, I'll usually just bypass them because I'll try to get to them as soon as possible and get them out in a podcast just like we're doing right here. So that's it. That's going to wrap up this podcast. Again, thanks for all the questions. We look forward to doing more of these. We enjoy doing these, and get out there and shoot. Go get out there, find some JVs. Just keep plugging and keep pushing towards the end goal and focus on what you want to achieve, and then just go get it. All right, so that's it. That's going to wrap it up. Talk to you later.